incredibly exciting opportunity for a joint expanded Disagree Better campaign in 2024 in partnership with the National Governors Association and Utah Governor Spencer Cox, who we'll see a little bit later. And I see Gordon Larson, the lead man behind the Disagree Better campaign, here as well. And you're about to hear from the real wizard rocket scientist who's going to take us to new heights, Steve Wright. But Manu, please frame this up for us. And thank you so much, brother, for your leadership and, as always, leading the way of what it means to put the interest of the collective and of this movement and of achieving social cohesion and collaboration ahead of even the incredible work that Bridge USA is doing as a single organization. Manu.
Thank you, Pierce, for that undeserved introduction. I'm not exactly sure where to take that next, but I want to just thank you for all the work that you've done. I also want to just echo what Rachel said, which is, if all we got to do is shoot for 20%, I would have scored an A in high school, man. That's got to be the guiding light for and saving grace and North Star for what we should be aiming for. But I do think that there's a lot of wisdom there. I also, before we jump right into Disagree Better campaign, I just want to say, like, how just humbling it is to see the journey of this field over the last 4 or 5 years. I remember when I started this with some amazing friends as a college freshman, in 2017. I've just learned so much, and I just want you all to know that it's been just such a joy. And one of my mentors in the early days said that no matter where the journey goes, the process and the people that you meet are truly amazing. And at that time, when you're like this random 18-year-old, that all sounds like hokey pokey nonsense, and yet it could not be truer. So I just want to tell you how humble and grateful I am, and also to my friends and colleagues, Haley, Jess, and others that have been doing this work for so long. So with that, Disagree Better. I want to give you 3 sort of key points, thoughts, and frameworks, and then turn it over to Steve, who I've gotten to know really well, and Gordon and others that are going to lead sort of this effort. The first is just an observation. In the breakout right before this, and in everything that's been said over the past couple of months, especially in this meeting as well, you hear words like messaging, legitimacy, credibility. How do we reach influencers? How do we tackle and leverage the people in power to drive impact? And I think one thing has become apparent to me over the last 2 years doing this work on campuses and high schools. It's that there is so much tremendous silent demand for this work that I think breaks along a new divide. There's tremendous silent demand for this work that breaks along a new divide. What do we mean by that? And the folks that have been shepherding this field for so long know this way better than I do. But there's sort of 2 stories that stand out to me that demonstrate and argue for why I think this campaign presents a real opportunity. The first is that 6 months ago, we launched a podcast called The Hopeful Majority. The idea behind The Hopeful Majority was nobody wants to be mobilized in the exhausted majority. When you call people exhausted, there's like the sense of, all right, well, it's only downhill from here. So how do we get people engaged? And in those conversations, when we were talking to people, there's this one conversation that stood out to me really closely, and that was with Vivek Ramaswamy. I spoke to him right after the debate, the GOP debate, the first one. And the question I asked him was, I was like, we had a fantastic conversation in the last 60 to 70 minutes. And if anybody saw your debate performance and mapped it to the one-on-one conversation we just had, it would be a night and day difference. Like, why is that? And what he said to me, I think both left me really disheartened, but also it demonstrated the opportunity that we have, which is, well, nobody's asking for it. Nobody's asking for it. So I was asking for what? He said, nobody's asking me to disagree better with the people that are on that stage. Nobody's pushing a widespread narrative. The incentive structures in society reward me to be crazy, reward me to be pushing the front lines in distinct and opportune ways. The second quick story is, like, Richard mentioned this at the start, but our students in the last 3 or 4 months have been hosting lots of discussions, and especially after the tragedy of 10/7, what we're seeing is students across the country, and this isn't just specific to students, they're having these conversations, and this is no longer a question of left-right. Like, we oftentimes think of it, and Rachel presented this, and Shamil also mentioned this, which is that we think about our divide on the x-axis oftentimes in terms of that left-right question. But most of us here have very diverse ideologies. So what unites us? And the thing that starts to percolate is that there seems to be a new divide, and that's on the y-axis. And that's an axis of temperament, of mindset, of behavior. Are we united around being open-minded or closed-minded? Do we care about building a world in which we all want to live and be open, or do we want to build a world with walls that close people out? Do we want to live in a society where you and I get to see each other's humanity or not? That's the simple divide. And so if we mobilize around a divide of temperament, of mindset, of behavior, whatever it is that you want to call it, it suddenly allows us to build a coalition that I think is not only a practical societal coalition, but a winning political coalition. It's a winning political coalition. It shifts the incentive structures. So to wrap this piece up, where does the Disagree Better campaign fit in? Shyam and Rachel said this, which is 2024 presents an opportunity, not necessarily to solve our problems, but as Monica says a lot of the times, and others say in this field, it's an opportunity to mobilize because people are going to be listening. They're going to be listening, but they're going to be exhausted. They want a new way. But the only way I think we execute on 24 is if we have one large-scale consolidated effort that all of us can see ourselves fitting into. I think the risk that our field faces right now is that a lot of us have really exciting campaigns for 2024. And frankly, if we have 87 campaigns competing for the same 7 funders at scale, it's not going to work. And that's why with Bridge, we wrapped up our efforts. Jess is on this call, and we said, we're just going to roll this into Disagree Better. Of course, we don't get 100% of what we want, but the fact is that I think this campaign represents the opportunity to do one thing, which is, and I think Lisa said this in our breakout right before this, which is that I think it brings together 4 sectors that I think this field has been trying to line the balls around for the past 4 years, but has not been able to. What are those 4 sectors? One is political elites and political leaders. The NGA's got that. Number 2 is philanthropy. Philanthropy is already invested in this campaign. And the kicker here is that they want to invest more, but they want to see where does the action from this campaign lead. So the third sector is the action piece. It's the NGOs, it's civil society, it's all of us. And the fourth piece is culture. We were having a call where we talked about the different celebrities we want to reach, and we almost had an overlap. So if we can execute on a large-scale consolidated effort in 24 that reaches the everyday Americans where they are, because they've got like this feeling of, man, I'm in this fever dream and I need an alternative. And you've got political elites, cultural elites, the media, the NGO world, and philanthropy behind it. Then the only question is one of execution. So how do we execute? Because this work, as I think somebody said earlier, is not about kumbaya, let's hold hands. It's about healthy conflict, as Amanda Ripley puts it. It's about thinking about how we disagree so that we can build that better world. And that's what the question of the campaign becomes. How do we execute? So I'll turn this over to Steve, who knows way more than I do in terms of how to execute a campaign like this. And the opportunity here, again, that I would say is it's an olive branch for us to see how these messages can adapt to our individual audiences. What works for college students at UC Berkeley is going to be very different than what works for a pastor in Illinois, which is going to be very different than what works for, the barbershop in Philadelphia that Braver Angels convenes, or is going to be very different than what works from the crew workers that are being convened in Louisiana. But the question is whether or not there's a big enough tent for all of us to fit in, and this presents one potential opportunity. So, Steve, we'll turn it over to you for how we execute. What does the what look like?
Absolutely. Manu, thank you. Pierce gave you an amazing introduction. I didn't know you were going to follow that, but you did really well. So,
I shot for 20%.
That's right. Hey, I am honored to be with you guys today. The work that you're doing is inspiring. I've been only part of it for a very, very short time. For the past 7 months, I've been at the table working on this Disagree Better movement with Governor Cox and the NGA, and hearing about the work that this group has been doing and like-minded organizations, it's inspiring. It is truly making a difference, and we are creating a greater level of understanding across not only our political network, but America in itself. So I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to take you guys through this. One of the assignments I was given on this call was to give you a little bit of a snapshot on executable opportunities within the Disagree Better campaign. So Manu set this up really, really well. Let me see if I can share here real fast. Manu, you're going to have to tell me if everybody can see what I'm sharing.
I see it.
Steve.
You're good. You're good, Steve.
All right, terrific. So not that long ago, Governor Cox helped kick off his NGA chair initiative. And he did this from a place of passion and understanding on what needs to happen across America, especially in the political space. And from that, the whole goal of this initiative was to amplify the scale this national movement to disagree better through healthy conflict by enlisting governors, leaders, athletes, celebrities, and Americans to champion a movement and lead as role models of constructive conflict. And for us, I work for an advertising agency that is founded in behavior change marketing. We leverage best practice behavior change methodologies into motivating people to adopt positive behavior. And so we had to boil this down to like one propelling question. And so the entire campaign of Disagree Better hinges on this right here, that how might we model healthy conflict and debate to inspire Americans to rise above this current environment and role model a healthier way to disagree. Now, this isn't a kumbaya message. This isn't all that we need to all agree. Having opposing opinions is at the foundation of America. But as we took this and we started to break it into what we call our 4-part strategy, we started to see ample success in this moment. And the idea that your organizations, your resources, your talents, your abilities unify with Disagree Better to amplify this message across our nation. Guys, that's just exciting. I even get goosebumps saying that. But for our 4-part strategy, we first launched off with this whole idea that we needed to have a unifying brand, name, and call to action to rally everybody behind. And so we developed this recognizable brand that represented all the NGA participation, all the like-minded organizations. And this became our call to action, inciting Americans to adopt this new way to disagree better. And I'm going to talk about what that brand stands for a little bit more in just a second. But the second part of that 4-part strategy was to launch this national awareness through a series of videos. And I don't know if you guys have seen the first hero video that rolled out from Governor Cox of Utah and Governor Polis from Colorado. And I'm going to show that to you in a second. But it was a call to action to ask all governors, all political leaders to lean into this conversation, lending their clout and credibility to say, we can do better. We must be held to doing something better. From that, we've published toolkits, public relation outreach campaigns. We've developed out-of-home strategies, social media content, and we're even starting to move into other traditional media networks where we're creating additional content to enter into that conversation. Now, where we're at right now, and this is where I believe this group can help at such a high level, is to create this easy and motivating invitation for others to begin to participate, to lend their voices in both a personal and online conversation to help amplify what the message is all about. Now, what does this look like? We're talking about UGC campaigns where Americans get to share their voices, where they get to engage conversations with politicians, where celebrities get to lend their voice and their networks to talk about something much larger, and then to start to build out tentpole moments that lift this campaign in ways we've yet to see. And our hope with this is if we are successful, that we start to measure this impact, benchmarking against where we're at and where we're moving to change this social trend. And I have some measurement studies I'm going to show you guys in a couple of slides on how we actually listen to the public, adjust on the fly, and make sure that we're heading in the right direction for all of our media channels. Now, pausing just for a minute, and I've had a lot of questions over the last several months about why Disagree Better. Well, this entire name and logo represented our larger objective to improve dialogue and debate by encouraging healthy interactions. So the speech bubbles of the D&B, that's all about an importance of a conversation that needs to happen from two sides of the aisle. The proximity of the D&B, having them overlay, talks about the need for proximity to have these conversations, to get to know the opposition and be curious about what that conversation looks like. And you can imagine the colors represent a very recognizable group from two different sides of the aisle. And the name, it's all focused on a call to action. This is the desired action we want to see, not necessarily telling people how to disagree, but that they need to do it better in a more curious way, that we're creating a better conversation leading to better outcomes. One of the things I want to show you is about 6 months ago, we rolled out this commercial talking about our need to save family dinner with Governor Polis and Governor Cox. And they issue a call to action not only to the nation, but to their counterpart governors in states across our nation. So let me play that for you guys real quick.
I'm Spencer Cox, Republican governor of Utah. And I'm Jared Polis, Democratic governor of Colorado. And we're here to help save your family dinners. You know what we're talking about. You're halfway through your second helping of mashed potatoes when your MAGA uncle decides to share his thoughts on the latest election conspiracy. We all have that uncle. Or instead of passing the salt, your woke niece passes along a particularly controversial fact that she read on social media. Or maybe you're the one with the strong opinions. You know you're right. And the other side is a bunch of misguided weirdos. But there's a healthy way to deal with conflicting opinions. Actually, it's okay to disagree. It's not just okay, it's crucial. Did you just disagree with me about disagreeing? Healthy disagreement means not assuming that the other side is deluded, misinformed, or actively trying to overthrow America. A little respect and curiosity keeps resentment off the dinner table and out of your social media feeds. Our nation was founded by people who profoundly disagreed. So next time your uncle, your niece, or anyone else brings up that one topic that just drives you nuts, take a deep breath. Be curious, ask questions. If you still disagree, that's okay, but you might find that you aren't as far apart as you think. Conflict isn't bad. It's the way we disagree that matters. Please join us in showing America the right kind of conflict. Together, we can disagree better.
So I have to admit, from there, it became a wild storm as I started to travel around the country, meeting with governors from Oklahoma, Arizona, Indiana, Kansas, Missouri, Wyoming, New Mexico, Maryland, Alabama, Montana. The list goes on and on, to create similar hero videos where they feature their voice, their credibility, and their call to action to create change. To this point, we have nearly 20 governors that have leaned in to say, I want to be part of this. I want to create a message. I want to talk to not only my state, but the nation about a need to create change. Now, I'd be lying to you guys about the whole solution lied with governors. We all know that that's not the case. And we recognize that governors and public officials, they can help influence policy and politics, which is truly important to the foundation that we're building with Disagree Better. But now it's time to shift culture. And we believe that that can be defined by celebrities, athletes, musicians, and public influencers, and how they lean into this conversation and sharing their voice. Now, conversations are happening about how to bring this network together so that they can use their influencers, their followers, and talk about a message that's truly important for all of America. One of the ones we have that I want to show you guys today is recently I had the opportunity to sit down with Hall of Famer Steve Young of the San Francisco 49ers, two-time Super Bowl winner, and talk about Disagree Better, where he lent his voice and his network to sharing a message just about this. So let me play that spot for you guys real quick.
Hey, I'm Steve Young, Pro Football Hall of Famer, husband, father, and American. And like so many of you, I'm tired of division, contention, and the ugliness in politics. And also, like many of you, I know deep down there's a better way. Healthy disagreement means asking questions, genuinely listening, and keeping the conversation going without getting defensive. I was always more of an offensive guy anyway. So if there's an issue you're passionate about, it's still okay if we don't see eye to eye. For example, what should we be teaching in schools? We can disagree. Or how do we fight inflation or make healthcare more affordable? Say, and who's the greatest left-handed quarterback of all time? Well, I guess we can disagree on that too. But no matter the issue, we don't have to let our debates get hateful. So let's disagree with patience. Let's disagree with empathy. Let's disagree with curiosity. Let's disagree better.
So your ideas around how to activate this particular network to help us shift culture, I believe, is essential to the long-term success of this campaign. The other thing that we're looking at is we recognize that lasting influence is supported when all aspects of the community are involved: governors, celebrities, athletes, and corporate brands. So how can our corporate brands lean into this conversation? Financially, yes, we all understand that. But we also see this as not necessarily a national opportunity, but even as we localize it with local organizations who can lend their voices into this conversation, providing an increased level of peer pressure on our politicians and those that are actively disagreeing the wrong way. But we do recognize that allowing these brands to share in this healthy message has to be done in their own unique voices so that they want to participate in the conversation and that they know that their followers are going to engage this. So how do you do this? Well, an example we want to use, let's take one from Coca-Cola and Pepsi. Can we do some sort of custom packaging idea that you walk into the grocery store and off the shelf, you pull a mixed pack of Coke and Pepsi. And this is the healthy debate over soda, where we show two brands that continually oppose each other, but they come together in a moment to talk about an American need that we can disagree, but we can do this better. There are executions like this across so many different brands. McDonald's, Burger King. What can we do with Delta Airlines? What can we do at American Airlines? How do we bring in Nike and Reebok into this conversation? What does that look like from a creative stance? And how can we create opportunities for all of them to participate? Now, there's one last category that I kind of want to talk about. And I think this is where your group can really bring some innovative creativity to the table. And it all focuses on this idea of an IKEA effect. People are more likely to support what they help build. So how can we create an opportunity for everyday Americans to lean into this conversation? And for us, it's as simple as this, okay? And this is where social media becomes a juggernaut. To engage and mobilize a diverse audience, American audience, they got to feel like they're part of the movement and see themselves not only in the messaging, but as vital contributors to its success. So as we seek to increase engagement from the exhausted majority and the extremists, we must give them a role to play in creating and distributing the disagree better message in a way that's personal to themselves. So one of the ideas that we've been playing with, and we'd love your feedback and your participation in this, is what if we have a UGC campaign that we ask individuals from two different sides of life to come together and demonstrate what it means to disagree better. So if you had a selfie video of two real Americans at a table in a restaurant, one of them named Grace, who says, "My name's Grace, and I'm pro-choice." Philip leans in and says, "My name's Philip, and I'm pro-life." We're going to have a conversation, and we're going to eat some tacos. And as they discuss their orders with each other, a little super appears and says, "We don't have to agree on everything. We just have to disagree better. Join us." And if we were able to create content like this from everyday Americans, we start to demonstrate that there's a better way to have these conversations. Another one, we'll call this one Ducks. This just shot a little selfie style. Two Americans sitting on a park bench. "My name is Edgar, and I support the Second Amendment. My name is Jeff, and I support tighter gun control. We're going to have a conversation, and we're going to feed the ducks." They start talking to each other as they feed the ducks, and a super appears. We don't have to agree on everything. We just have to disagree better. How can you disagree better? As an encouragement for others to lean into this conversation. Now, we don't want to leave politicians outside of this conversation. And one of the things that we're trying to motivate individuals to do is build a campaign around leveraging the new, more modern technology of stitching, where if we have politicians that are talking in a way that we deem as bad examples of how to disagree better, we want to hear from Americans talking about what that says, maybe even correcting or providing opportunity to say a better way to say that would have been X, Y, and Z. Let's have healthy conversations about this. And we create a little bit of a movement in social media to identify ways to do this in a better light. Now, all of this boils down, guys, to really two different type of campaigns for us. One, we're working on a very broad national campaign approach, and there's a target approach from a very national perspective. This broader one, it all focuses on developing this strategic national messaging and placing broad national media using targeted channels over a 12-month period, utilizing key messages and time periods. You can look at Super Bowl, Olympics, presidential elections, holiday programming, all out in front of us right now. And you can imagine what those partners look like. And we've had conversations with several individuals on this list that they're going to lean in and create opportunities for us to distribute this message. Ripple effect is we're preparing ourselves to engage at a national media level, where we're going to have appearances and opportunities to engage this conversation at a much larger level than we've seen in the past. Now, if we take that one step down and be a little bit more surgical in our delivery, we recognize that targeted local campaigns also bring in a lot of different support. And because we're having governors state by state lean in with their voices to be part of this conversation, we know that local news media wants to talk about this. We just got to give them compelling content to use in their stories as they elevate this conversation. Now, last thing, one of the big questions we get, how are you going to measure success? How are we going to show effectiveness with this campaign? Are we going to be able to show movement? And for us, it boils down to kind of 4 categories. One, yes, we're out there doing research. We're measuring positive impact with media tests. We're showing messaging benchmarks to create campaign attribution models. There are pre and post surveys in place. We need to increase the level of research and measurement to make sure we understand the temperature for this. We're also looking to increase engagement for this, increase in involvement from public figures, earned media, overall publicity numbers. We recognize that that's a volume element we need to turn up. Then we're looking at the analytics of this. We're leveraging social listening to gauge the public gap. Where's the conversation lacking? What conversations need to be featured and role modeled in some of the news media materials? And then we're tracking all the KPIs related to the campaign. And then lastly, we know this is a very emotional thing for so many Americans. And so leveraging neuromarketing to understand the emotional response from some of the messages we're creating, using eye tracking, galvanized response, and figuring out where we're at emotionally, driving Americans to a better opportunity. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Manu, and I'm happy to answer questions if we have time. But we're trying to create this movement, and no doubt we need your support to make this a reality.
Thank you so much, Steve. And I think we're all super excited by that. And I'm actually about to turn this over to Carissa so that she can drive us home with the content. I'm sure you saw that there's a lot of different opportunities to plug in. I will also just say, and this is just my hat of constant sort of pragmatism, is the rubber's going to hit the road on execution. And we're going to need everybody's help in trying to scale and execute this, because this is much bigger than all of us. And that's going to be super valuable. So Steve, again, thank you so much for your work, and I'll turn it over to Carissa.
Thanks, Manu, and thanks, Steve. I have seen that presentation several times, and every time I am just as excited as the first time that I saw it. And I am equally as excited looking at the chat, because there is so much interest and so much enthusiasm, and ideas are already flowing, and it's phenomenal. And we asked y'all in your pre-survey what some of the ways that your organization might want to be leaning into the Disagree Better initiative. And there was a lot of interest really showing up for both the air game and the ground game strategies. And we heard a lot from Steve right now about those air game strategies. And I am going to tell you a little bit more about some of the ground game opportunities that we see. So for example, and many of you are familiar with the National Week of Conversation, we at the Listen First Project and the Listen First Coalition of 500 partner organizations have been leaning into NWalk for the last 6 years, and we will be doing it again in 2024, in April 15th to 21st of 2024. And we're extremely excited because, again, this is a campaign that Listen First Project and our coalition has been running for however many years. And now we have the opportunity to step it up a notch. We have the opportunity to attach it to the Disagree Better campaign and have it really serve as an opportunity for multiple organizations to lean into this idea of calling upon our leaders and take leaders broadly and have them model healthier disagreement. And so I'm going to drop into the chat right now a document that gives you more information about NWalk 2024. It gives you some good framing and opportunities, specifically whether you want to go big and create a co-creative collaborative experience that's new and unique, or you want to share with us impact stories of the work that you've been doing that exemplifies how we're already calling on our leaders to disagree better and things that we really need to lift up as stories to share from the movement. I encourage you to complete the form that I am now putting into the chat, or the document that links to that form. And so you will be able to have that opportunity there. However, NWalk is a few months away, and we all like to have something to do, you know, tomorrow, this weekend, whenever. So I am really excited that I get to say Listen First Project would like to put on the table today an offer for you all to lean into some of this air game that we just heard about. And so we're going to offer $1,000 to the organization that comes forward by January 31st and gives us an ad, a pitch. Give us a script and specifically name either the celebrities or the other leaders that you would like to see featured in that ad that you very cleverly and creatively craft. Send me that. Send it to carissa@listenfirstproject.org by January 31st, and we will be able to take, your ideas and turn them into another example of what we just saw Steve present. So I am really excited to receive those, and I'm actually going to turn it over to our friends at Team Democracy, Ken Powley, to share another example of how an idea that started as an idea has very quickly turned into an incredibly unique opportunity for the bridging movement in general to lean in to disagree better. And it's just a fantastic model of how each of us can take our own ideas and they start as a seed, but when we lean in and have greater impact together, they can really grow. So Ken, the floor is yours, my friend.
Thank you so much, Carissa. Happy to jump in here. As you said, just a couple of months ago at the ADS Summit in Los Angeles, I had a kernel of an idea that came up during a conversation with Pierce and Monica Guzman and myself and Chris Newland, our co-founder here at Team Democracy. Chris and I both have really deep roots in the whitewater industry, and we floated the idea of doing a whitewater event next year in support of the bridging movement. Everybody liked the idea, so Chris and I started to flesh it out. When I heard about what we'd be doing as a movement as part of the Disagree Better campaign, that led both of us to think in much, much bigger terms about what might be possible with that original idea. And then exploring it with you, Carissa, we realized that by attaching that Team Democracy Raft for America event to our collective Disagree Better campaign, it would really elevate the impact of the whitewater event, and it would also make a serious contribution to our collective 2024 campaign. So now, just 2 months later, that original idea has expanded into a national bridging event that's catching the interest of media and filmmakers and the enthusiasm of whitewater rafting companies from coast to coast. The basic concept of the event, as both Shamil and Rachel called out earlier, is for people to actually do something together that's fun and exciting, and to do it with somebody from outside their own information bubble. In our case, we want that shared activity to be both fun and exciting. So after 5 decades of running a whitewater rafting company, I can absolutely assure you that whitewater rafting is exciting, it's cool, it's fun. But when you're in that raft, if you're focusing on your differences instead of focusing on working together, you are definitely going to end up swimming through the rapids. Raft for America 2024 is designed to do 2 really important things. First, it'll generate gobs of good publicity for the bridging movement. Next June, dozens of rafting companies on rivers all across the country are going to be offering free spaces to people who pair up with somebody from outside their bubble. We aim to populate a lot of those rafts with red-blue pairs of governors. I have a couple in mind. Lawmakers, CEOs, faith leaders, and even unlikely pairs of celebrities. All people that the media are going to want to engage with. Second, for the general public, Raft for America isn't just a depolarizing activity, but it's also a great way to get participants onto a pathway that leads them into other bridging activities and more meaningful civic engagement. Here's a really quick look at how it works. First, our media campaign, coupled with outreach through our partners, including those dozens of rafting companies, will generate growing interest in Raft for America. Second, participants will sign up in pairs with somebody from outside their bubble. If they need help finding somebody, they can rely on some of our nonprofit partners who will help match them up with somebody different. Participants will provide us their personal backstories about how they manage their differences and how they've used those differences as a source of strength, resilience, and inspiration. Third, even though we will have participation from rafting outfitters across the country, not everybody's going to be able to make it onto a whitewater river next June. Those who don't can choose from dozens of other activities, everything from biking and hiking to hunting or fishing. And these activities can be offered through partner organizations, or they can be activities that the participants do on their own. Fourth, after their shared experience, every pair of participants is encouraged to take part in a depolarizing activity that's offered by one or more of our partners, an activity that's specifically designed to help bridge our differences. A lot of these activities already exist today among our BMAC members, and we encourage everybody to design more of these activities specifically aligned with the Raft for America event. And fifth, participants will be encouraged to share their experiences on social media and rely on our bridging partners to continue on that pathway toward broader, more impactful civic engagement. At the end of the day, we will have created a really robust database of personal stories that will help inspire others to bridge their differences too. You might have noticed that in each of those 5 steps, I mentioned partners. Chris and I know Whitewater, and we're well along at building the infrastructure for this event. We have a number of key partners on board already, but we're going to need a lot more help. We'll be setting up working groups over the coming weeks, and we're actively looking for members who will lean into this project. Some of the ways we hope partners will support Raft for America include media outreach, identifying high-level red-blue pairs, providing follow-on bridging activities, doing important data analysis, event management, and of course, funding. So if you are interested at all in helping with this, please just drop a note to me or to Carissa, and I absolutely guarantee that we will find the right opportunities here for you and your team to have a real impact. And so for anybody who doesn't have it already, I'm going to drop my email address into the chat. And with that, I will say thank you and turn this back to you, Carissa.
Thank you so much, Ken. Talk about ingenuity and innovation to the extreme, and I love an adventure, so that's fantastic. I'm going to really quickly turn it over to our friends at Starts With Us and just have to give a special shout out because it is the happy 2nd year anniversary with Starts With Us, and that is actually today, December 8th. So with that, Tom, congratulations, and I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, officially entering our terrible 2s. So expect a lot of wailing and crying and meltdown. Yeah, really great to join you all. I'm always so heartened and excited to join this group, and especially after what we just heard from both speakers. I think the theme that we're all circling around here is the need for moonshots at mass awareness. I think the kind of social shifts that we want to see, the kinds of individual behavior changes that we want to see, if we want to affect real normative social change, the upper funnel and the good old marketing funnel needs to be huge. You know, tens of millions of people, hundreds of millions of people. That's I think the kind of ambition we need to have, especially with the year that we have ahead of us, which is sure to be you know, quite divisive, but also in being so create a ton of room for opportunity. So this is my looks like this is my recorded commitment here that the platform that we've been really intentionally trying to build that starts with us to share these kinds of inspirational stories, practical tips, actions people can take in their own personal, professional, civic lives, digitally, in real life. That platform we're really excited to bring to bear to support certainly the field's work, but as we continue, it sounds like to crystallize around some core messaging and ideas, and in particular, disagree better. I thought I saw maybe Gordon in the chat there. We've had a great early partnership thus far, trying to use our platform to drive streams and engagement to those videos, and hopefully that continues to be useful to y'all. But yeah, as an air game focused partner, I'm really excited to see how we'll be able to intersect with and support the increasingly collaborative and unified messaging from the field. So glad to obviously take individual meetings or answer any questions about that. But yeah, appreciate the shout, Carissa. Happy birthday to our.
Well, I mean,
little
Tom, I feel like on somebody's birthday, we're supposed to give you a gift, and you just gave the entire movement a gift. I mean, don't be humble. You have what, 3 million followers on your social media platform? So you just gifted the movement with that level of outreach. So happy birthday to us. Thank you. So just extremely grateful for all of the leadership, the work, and just truly the spirit of collaboration.